Hi everyone, just want to do a little update regarding a few things. Everybody probably knows by now that I was in court yesterday regarding the person that was prosecuted last year for making and selling MMS Miracle Mineral Solution bleach to autistic children. Unfortunately, this person appealed his case, and yesterday it wasn't heard, so now it's been put back again, probably till this time next year. I've had a big conversation with the authorities yesterday, the HPRA and the barrister for the case, and I just want to clarify a few things. So first we'll just start with the situation regarding MMS in Ireland. So MMS is classed as an unauthorised medicine, but the abuse that's carried out by people in relation to autistic children is not being addressed at all. So all the HPRA can do effectively is look at the product, confiscate the product and make sure that it's not being offered as a medicine. That is all they can do. Now, the punishment for this person that was in the courts was really, really small, but that is what the fine is set at. So €4,000 is all they're going to get fined if they are manufacturing and selling this product. That's outrageous. It's crazy. And this person has not paid this fine to date, even though he was found guilty last October, actually. So to me, that is not good enough. And I suppose even talking to the HPRA, they agree with me, and they agree that we do need a regulation or some kind of law passed that will not just focus on the product MMS, but focus on what it does to the human body, especially to children, and especially autistic children, which it's marketed for. So this is what I want to really just, address. I've been campaigning for 3 years, since basically 3 straight years on this issue. I've done everything in my power to stop this abuse, and Emma has as well in the UK. And there's other people out there that are helping us, but we don't have enough support. What really upset me, I suppose, yesterday is that nobody reached out to me about this, hardly anyone from the autistic community, except Emma and a couple of other people, and they know who they are. I have a lot of support from the science community, even support from people that I don't know. But those that have been aware of this campaign work for the last 3 years just effectively didn't even bother to check in, to ask if I'm okay, what happened. This is an horrendous ordeal for me, going to the court. I have Asperger's. I find the whole thing invasive and scary, and a lot has been sacrificed to achieve what we have achieved to date. And I suppose what the problem is really is the fact that we don't have enough people in Ireland speaking out this issue. I have gone to the European Parliament in the last month with Emma and talked about this again, and I don't have the kind of interest from politicians following up. I think this one politician has responded to an email that I sent about 3 weeks ago. What really frustrates me is that we've had this race in the Shannon, we've had this race in the Dáil, we've gone to the UN with this issue. The Children's Rights Alliance have put in a parallel report, which I basically wrote for them. Barnardo's have covered child abuse. We've done everything, and everything that I can think of humanly possible, trying to get people to think that this is important. Now, I have made statements, not just to the HPRA in relation to MMS, but to parents that were using this on their children. So the guards have names as well. And that happened 2 years ago. So nothing has happened to date from the statements that we made to the Gardaí. And I don't know why. So basically I rang this department today and I spoke to a female guard who told me she will investigate it for me. Now, this is what the problem is. In the beginning of this campaign, I actually spoke to a solicitor. She's a very good solicitor here in Ireland, and she didn't understand how this could be happening. And this is in 2014. Because we do have a Child Protection Act, which basically, charges people with abuse if they hurt children. Now, don't get me wrong. I think giving bleach to a child is abuse. I think that's child abuse. Maybe you know what? Maybe I'm just, not really thinking things through, that it's okay to do that. Because that's the impression I have today, talking to you today, is that giving bleach to children is fine by the Gardaí. They don't seem to care, and it's the same all around the world. The children's laws that are there should be enough for the police, for the Gardaí, to implement some action on this issue, but they're not doing it. And it's almost really just the case that if you have a child that is autistic, or if you have a disabled child, that they're not viewed in the same light. That's what it equates to. I don't understand that. And I'm actually asking the people out there today to think about that for a minute. You know, giving bleach to a child should be seen as a crime, but it's not. Okay, so that's one element. We do have child protection laws there, but they're not being used to address this issue. Now, the HPRA and the punishments that these people get for peddling these products, you know, it's not enough. Okay, so I think that needs to be addressed, that the fines need to be turned into jail terms to stop these people doing this crime. But the HPRA do not have the authority to address this element of this evilness. So they can't actually deal with the child abuse factor. They can only deal with the product, which is MMS. They can't deal with the people that are giving this. It's not their fault. Okay, so they depend on the other powers that be to address those elements, but it's not working. So what we have effectively is a system that is broken down, and nobody is connecting with each other. There's some great guards that I have talked to over the last few years in relation to this, and they've tried really, really hard to bring this to the highest level that they can, and they don't have their colleagues supporting them with this. So it just doesn't bear thinking about. So here I am 3 years later, kind of in a situation where do we go from here? What do we do now? We're not getting enough support from the autistic community, and I have to say that. There's people out there on Facebook who will say, oh, this is terrible, share a post, but they won't actually act on it. Action is not just looking at Facebook posts, okay? It's actually doing something, like going and meeting with a politician, talking to people off Facebook in the real world, okay? Like what we're doing, Emma and I. That's what action is. And, you know, I really think the exercise yesterday woke me up, because I didn't have anyone actually ask me how I got on in court. Nobody, except for a few people, and they know who they are. And I'm not going to name people or shame people that have, you know, caused upset to me. But I'm just explaining that from this day forth, I will only be working with people that take this matter seriously. I don't want to engage in any more conversations about this. I've spent 3 years talking about MMS, writing articles. I must have written 100 to date, working with the media, working with Emma. I'm done, okay? So I will only work with people who will actually want to stop this abuse, not talk about it, not write little stories about it, okay? I just want the abuse to end. So if there's people out there that want to be friends with me, that want to do that, that's great. But those of you that don't and pretend to care, I'm not going to engage anymore. I didn't go into this campaign to make friends. It's not, you know, it's a serious issue to me in my life, and I just want some closure. I just want the politicians around the world to act. And that gets me to my next comment on this issue. Right now in Ireland, okay, where I live, there seems to be an immense passion and commitment to endorse bills that promote quackery, like the cannabis bill. Now, thankfully, you know, the Health Committee and the HPRA and some TDs have worked very hard to make sure that that bill didn't get through, because it was a shambles, you know. And you know, Kenny, if you're watching, you know that that's true. You're not a man of science, you don't know anything about autism, and you made bogus claims, and that's why this bill has fallen through. You've probably actually damaged any hope for people trying to get medicinal cannabis for legitimate reasons in the future as well. So well done. You've really made a mess of that. And I suppose what I really want to use that example for is that if we could get that kind of support, my goodness, if we could get people marching on the streets, walking to Dublin, fighting for the rights of autistic people. But we don't have that, you see. We don't have those politicians lining up for us saying, oh, isn't it terrible? You know, isn't it terrible that we can't get that cannabis for people now? You know, what about protecting children from bloody bleach? Wouldn't I love that if there was petitions and, you know, GoFundMe's raised for people trying to get justice for this horrendous abuse, which is what it is. Children being pinned down and having bleach pumped into their bodies 24 hours a day. I have had enough. And is there a politician out there? Is there a TD out there that actually gives a damn about autistic children? Where are they? because I certainly haven't met them. I've heard them talk. And when I ran in the general election, I went to meetings and I sat with these people and they were horrified that this was happening. And they told me it's a crime, but they've done nothing. Nothing. And for those of the TDs out there that I admire, and I'm not naming anybody, and they're complaining about this issue, about the quackery, please stop complaining about it. I get horrendous abuse, terrible abuse. But what we need to do is put our energy into ending the quackery. Let's go and get a bill put through the Senate to protect people, not just autistic people, from all of this nonsense. You know, if the cannabis bill can get the round of support, we can do this. We can do it. And I know that there's politicians here in Ireland that are really good and really effective. And I really respect them for their work that they're doing on this issue. But they need to take it a step further now and just implement something. Make it happen. Make it real for people. Stop the abuse. You know, we don't need to be living in 2017 with this issue. It's something that can be done. So that's what I'm actually wanting to try and put in place, is where do we go from here? Moving away from social media and moving away from the talking and the moaning and the complaining. We need to actually just try to work together to stop this. And that goes for all the charities out there, all the autism charities. Now, I've engaged with everybody over the last 3 years, and you know who you are as well. And I've had messages from people. I'll call you tomorrow. I'll write an email. I'll get you a meeting with the Minister for Health. None of it ever happens. And it really is just wanting to make this clear to you out there, all you charities for autistic people, all the people out there that have autism bills in the running. If you really, really care about autistic people, you will do this. You will make sure that they're safe, that they're protected from these charlatans that are abusing them and torturing them, not just with MMS, with all of these bogus things. Collation, stem cells, GC math, cannabis oil, not approved for autism. Kids are suffering, okay? It's gone beyond a joke at this point, actually. The promotion of things. This is a huge problem as well for the HPRA. They can only look at the product. It's very hard for them to address promotion, seminars, talks. And MMS and all these products are sold online. So what can they do? Nothing. They can only go after the people that are selling this here in Ireland. They can't target the people online. You know, it is sad. And I suppose when I came home from Kildare yesterday and I was driving down with a HPRA representative, a senior representative, a lovely man actually, he told me the problem is that the politicians don't have an appetite. They don't have an appetite to end quack treatments. There's no politician out there lobbying to protect people from this nonsense, especially homeopathy. We talked about that at length. Getting away with, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. So is there a politician out there here in Ireland that actually believes in what I believe, that autistic children shouldn't be abused and tortured with bleach and bogus cures, and that people that have serious illnesses shouldn't be targeted from these charlatans as well? Because I'd like to know who they are. And it's one thing saying that they agree with me, but actually doing something is the proof of the pudding, isn't it, really? Actually standing up in the Dáil and saying, we want a bill, because the legislation that we have doesn't work. It does not work. And I stood in a court and I talked to a barrister yesterday, a lovely man, who agreed with me. And he said it's up to people out there to try and bring in some kind of regulation to address this issue. So that's what I'm asking here today. The politicians that are out there, all the parties. And some of the political parties are worse than others. And I think people before profit, you win first prize for that. And you know, Kenny, what I've seen you do over the last year, sharing absolute nonsense about cannabis and people listening to you and garnering such support. It's incredible, actually. The ones that are pushing these bogus treatments and cures are given thousands of pounds, aren't they? But here we are begging the government, you know, begging everybody to stop children being abused with bleach, and we get nothing. We get no support. I do this voluntary. I am absolutely outraged at the lack of consideration and the lack of compassion our politicians have for people from the autistic community. You You should be ashamed of yourselves. It's appalling because you know it's happening. My goodness, I think the media attention we've had on this issue has been second to none. You know, especially Primetime, RTE, The Times, BBC, The Irish Examiner. There've been very good articles written, very good journalists out there that I really admire and respect, that are doing great work. And then you go to the authorities and you go to the guards and you go to the powers that be, and they don't look at this as abuse. They don't look at pinning down a child and shoving bleach into their colon as abusive. So, yeah, what do you think about that, people out there today? The other thing I just want to quickly just run over as well is the fact that the abuse that I've received for this and the censorship and everything. I've been banned on Facebook for a week, so people, if you're wondering where I am, because I stood up for a little boy who had Down syndrome. So there was a meme going around Facebook Friday night, and I said it's disgusting. That was the word I used. And I was banned for a week. And there's people on there right now sharing pictures of their child's intestinal lining being burnt by MMS. And they're allowed to stay there, and they're allowed to promote this abuse. So go figure that one out. I'm going to close on an example that I saw last night with my dear friend Emma, another woman who is desperately trying to end this abuse and doesn't get much support either. And I suppose the friends out there on Facebook that talk to us, you know, ongoingly about this issue, autistic people, you need to do more. Stop getting, you know, leaving all this work to Emma and I. It's really quite unfair. You need to just really just not just write blogs, but actually do something in the real world. And I think that if everybody that I've seen that has said this is wrong, thousands of people, we've got a petition, Emma has a petition with nearly 55,000 signatures. All of you wrote to your MPs, to your politicians. You know, I think that could make that happen. We could get a movement, get on the streets. Let's do a huge march in Dublin, Cork, whatever. Same for London. The last protest I did, there was like a handful of people. Where are all of you on Facebook that are moaning about this but not actually acting on it? You know, do you not realise the sacrifices that we make to try and stop this abuse, what we put ourselves through, Emma and I? I don't think you do. Anyway, that's it. From now on, I'll be working with people who want to do this properly, to want to act on this issue, and I'm not going to give my energy or time to silly things on Facebook. You know, we want to end this abuse. So if there's anyone out there that wants to stay in touch with me and wants to work in that way, then I should be back on Facebook tomorrow. Thanks a lot for the week off. Anyway, as we close on one thing that I saw last night, which I mentioned there a second ago, Emma and I were alerted to another child abuser in CD autism. And this woman lives in Canada. And Canada is one of the countries that actually has really taken a strong stance on MMS. I think it was the first country to act, actually. So it's effectively kind of banned in Canada. So you can't really access it, you can't buy it, you can't get it, you know, in Canada. But this mother, the poor woman, you know, was moaning in CD Autism that she had to buy her bleach online outside of her country's jurisdiction. And she has to pay taxes on it. So her bleach for her abusing her autistic child is costing her more than it should. So that's one of her complaints. And this woman is somebody that was at Autism One recently with Andrew Wakefield. So there's a photograph of this woman. Her name is Laurie Flair. Okay, so if you're watching, Laurie, you were in Autism One recently, May, with Andrew Wakefield. Your arms wrapped around him. How much you love him. How much you respect him. And then there you are, pumping bleach into your adult autistic son. Her son is 17, so he's nearly an adult. 6'3", okay? Pictures of his insides laid on plates. I'm not showing them here because Emma, my friend, has shared them actually earlier today. And to make matters worse, the woman puts up a post on her timeline recently, actually, in the last few weeks, stating that her son, who's 17, and who's on the CD protocol, this bleach, chlorine dioxide bleach, that she was a bit worried about her son because he'd lost 40 pounds in weight in the last few years. That's 3 stone roughly, her son. And he is passing blood. He's bleeding when he urinates. A lot of blood. So this poor young autistic man, given bleach, obviously is damaging his kidneys. It's causing him to lose an excessive amount of weight. I mean, that is a very worrying amount of weight to lose. And he's passing blood. Now, long-term use of chlorine dioxide, and I've talked to scientists and doctors here in Ireland, so they know what they're talking about, does irreparable damage on the kidneys. It really has the biggest impact on that part of the body. And this poor young man doesn't need to be bleeding, does he? He doesn't need to be losing a huge amount of weight, but he's being poisoned, you see. That's what's happening here. The man is being poisoned with bleach. Okay? So that's happening now, right now. And it's probably happening in Ireland as well. Like I said, the parents that believe in this can buy this online. They don't even have to leave their home. It can be delivered to their front door. So it doesn't matter that much that we don't have shops selling this bleach anymore. And there was. There was a dentist in Mayo selling this bleach product in her shop. Okay? And she's being reported to the authorities by me, and that's ongoing. So what do you do? What is the problem here? It's the promotion, and it's the fact that we can't actually ban the product itself. We need to make a legislation to address what it's being used for. Okay? That's what we need. And that's what we have to do. And if there's anybody out there that wants to join me and Emma, and the few people that are really working hard on this issue, they know who they are, please let us know. But do not come to us asking silly questions about MMS. Do not come to us saying, isn't it terrible? We're done. We know how bad it is. We've seen the horror show. I went to sleep last night looking at that image of that poor boy, okay? And my best friend, Emma, reported that mother to the Canadian authorities during the night, okay? So she took the time out of her life with her 6 children to ring the police in Canada to report that mother and what she's doing to her child. And this is a mother who is arm in arm with Andrew Wakefield at Autism One, you know, a professional woman, which is what she is, an educated woman. So don't think that these people that are giving these products to their children are uneducated, stupid. They're not. There's doctors, there's dentists, there's nurses. There are professional people doing this to their children right now. And there's only one thing that they've got in common, and that is a hatred for autism. And they're completely against science and medicine. They're quacks, okay? And you can't educate those people because they believe. The Genesis 2 Church and all these people are part of a movement that are anti-establishment. They're anti-government. They're anti-science. So you've got to just stop them. You've got to fight them. And I really believe that if we had a law in place yesterday when I went to court, that things would be different. You know, that we could look at the element of the child being hurt and not just the product being sold. So please, please prioritize this. You know, you don't have to have an autistic child to help. You don't have to be autistic. And I've got loads of people that are from, you know, that have no autism in their lives. It's not about that. They just care. They just care about children, and they care about people being safe. It's crazy that we have to have this issue at this point in time, but we do need laws introduced, and it has to happen fast. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say, and obviously I'm very disappointed with the fact that this is not being addressed properly, and I'm very tired, and sorry, I feel very hurt and let down by a lot of people that, you know, I thought were really serious about making this end. And but I'm not a quitter, and I'm going to keep fighting, but we have to do it differently. And if there's anyone that wants to do it differently, because it does involve work and it's unpaid work, just let me know, okay? Okay, thanks for watching, and I just want to thank Emma and Michael and John and David and Tim and Samantha, Leonie, David, Anita, Pauline. There's some lovely people out there. Colum, I can't think of all your names. I'm really exhausted. And I just, you know who you are. And your support means a lot to me. But we need to get to the end of this because we want our children to be safe for the future. I want my boys not to have quacks exploiting them in the future when I'm not here to protect them. That is such an important issue for me, and it is for any mum out there, that their children should not be used in this way for profit, for guinea pigs, for quacks. That's what this is. It's criminal behaviour, it's child abuse, and it needs to be addressed as that. So thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully we will see an end to this abuse one day in the near future. Bye.